Let's see if this actually works. Let's see if this actually works. Let me go to the other channel. I just want to see if this is actually running. Looks like we're live. Okay. Yo, what's up, Rob? Thank you for joining, man. Good morning, dude. This is the first time I'm going live on this channel, so hope you guys enjoy the resulting VOD after this. Is this in 4K? I can't even tell if it's in 4K or not. All I know is it looks pretty clean. I should have set it. What can I do? Okay, so it's ultra low latency, so it's not gonna be 4K. It's probably like 1080p. Maybe, I can't tell. Let's go to the stream really quick. Let's just see what it is. I don't know if Rob is still in here. He says, here to learn. Kim looks a lot better. Let's see. He says, here to learn. Kim looks a lot better. Let's see. Oh, no, it's only 1080p. Oh, no, it's only 1080p. Okay. Okay, so this morning, I have an interview at 12 o'clock, I think. Let me put my fucking... I'm so confused this morning, guys. I woke up very early because there's a lot of things I want to do today. Let's see here. Yeah, 12 o'clock. I got 3 interviews for the same company. Let me set my alarm so I don't like get too locked in on this code stream and then forget that I have an interview. That would suck. Hopefully these interviews are not like ridiculous. We'll see. I'll set this for 11:30 a.m. That's an hour from now. So today I want to go back and I want to update. I want to update the application we've been working on for the last few days to use dependency injection, and I also want to use a different type of table view. So let me just make sure we can see the screen. Okay, you guys can see the screen. Let me throw this up in the corner. So if you guys remember, we built an application a few days ago that shows a list of products. Application that shows a list of products. It's 150 products that it shows, and then when the user clicks on a product, it will take them to a screen that has the product name, the image, and a description of the product, right? And this data is being sourced from an open source website, so it's just sample data. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to modify this so that it uses the new Apple APIs for the table view. So, because right now we're using a very old school approach, and most modern companies are not using this approach. The other thing I did was before the table view was grabbing its data from this variable products, but this was a normal variable, so it wasn't a publisher. It was a normal variable. I'll show you what we were doing before. A normal variable like this, right? Just a var products. And then we had a did set. We had this logic here so that when the products got updated, it would reload the table, because the way this is built right now, the table, comment this out. The way it's built right now, the table doesn't reload. Doesn't have data in it when you start the app, right? So I start the app. You'll see right now it's going to work the same way still. Everything looks fine. But we were doing this a very old school way. This is a very, very old approach that most modern developers in the big 2026 are not going to be using anymore, because we can use a new framework that Apple released like in 2024 or 2025 called Combine, which is a reactive framework. So now, instead of this just being a normal variable that has a listener on it for when it's getting updated, we can delete this here. We can delete this here. We can delete the brackets, and we can make this a publisher. And what this essentially means is that now when this variable is changed, the application will get a notification letting it know, oh, the value of this variable has been updated or changed, right? And the way we keep track of this is by adding another property here, which is the observer. So there's a product observer now, which is essentially the variable that is going to be doing the actual action when these values are updated. It's called an any cancelable. This is kind of like React Swift, where this would be considered like a bag and then this would be a disposable. But this is a much cleaner way and it's native to the language. So then we're going to go back down and we're going to turn on the observer. So now we have the product variable. We're erasing the type, so it won't matter what type it is. And then whenever we receive new data, we're going to reload the table, right? So we build, the application builds, there's no data. The table gets the data and it refreshes. Now, did you see how that refreshed and it was like rough? It's rough because we're still using a very old school, I'm going to say 2019, 2020 approach to updating the table. I'm about to change all of this. So in order to change all of this, the first thing we need to do is we're going to go back to our models and we're going to create a new model. It's going to be called sections. Give it a simple name, sections. And inside this file, sections, we're going to import foundation. Import foundation. And then we are going to create an enum sections. And then inside the enum, we're going to add one case, which is main, because we don't have multiple sections in our, we don't have multiple sections inside of our table view. So we're going to add one section. We're going to go back to the caption list view. And we're going to add a new property. And this new property is going to be what controls the table view now. And it's going to be called var data source. And it's going to be what manages the data source for the table view, right? This is going to be using the new Apple library, NS diffable data source. So now we're going to go NS diffable data source snapshot. And this is going to take a generic of section. It could be whatever generic you want to use, but we're going to be using section because that's what we just defined. Section, and then the item, the values that the table view is going to be monitoring are going to be the products. So it's going to be products. And then we're going to make this optional. Okay. So now right off the bat, you'll see that we're going to be getting an error. The error says main account isolated conformance to sections is not hashable, right? So what we need to do now is we need to go back to our models. This is a new error. This is not an error you would have seen before. And I'm curious if I can just go, maybe I can do it here. Non-isolated. Let's see. Can I do it right here? Yeah, can't do it here. Non-isolated cannot be applied to mutable stored properties. So what we need to do is we need to go to the section, right? This is a new error that would show up only in the new versions of Xcode. Go to section, and we're going to make section non-isolated. And what that means is that many different threads can access this enum at the same time. With the new concurrency library that OS is using, they've added protections so that when there's properties or different classes, only one thread can access them at the same time, whatever thread is using them at that time. But we need this to be global, so we need to make it non-isolated so that any class that calls it, no matter what thread they're on, can read it, right? So we added that there, right? And now all of the errors went away because I cheated. The products already has the non-isolated keyword, because I was already messing with this a little bit earlier, if I'm being honest with you guys, it already has the non-isolated keyword. And then we also had to add conformance to being hashable and sendable. Even though I honestly don't know if I need this anymore. Let me remove the sendable for a second here. Let's go back. Let's see. Because I think if it's non-isolated, it will automatically be sendable. Yeah, nothing happened. Okay, so now if we build the app, everything should still be the same because we haven't implemented anything, right? We're just putting down the groundwork. Okay. So everything's working exactly the same way because we haven't made any critical changes. Okay, so now what we're going to start doing is we're going to start removing the underlying building blocks for the table view. And the first thing we're going to do is remove this data source, right? So right now we have captions list table dot data source equals self, which means that the source of the data for the table view is coming from the captions list view. But we're no longer going to be using this because we're going to completely change the way we've implemented the table view. And if you're new to Swift iOS programming, a table view is this list of items in this table. So let's go ahead and remove the delegate, the data source. We'll keep the delegate because this captions list view is going to continue being the delegate for this. And then we're going to go up here. Okay, we don't need it. We already removed it here too. Up here, there was a captions list view data source protocol as well. We don't need that anymore either. So all we need is the delegate. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the table view function. These functions, this function is no longer going to work. If I build the app right now, it should be empty. Let's build the app. Nothing happens. See, the table view does not load because there's no data source anymore. Because this function here is the function that controls the data source, but we're not going to be using this anymore. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create two new functions. And I'm just going to create an extension and write them in there so it's a little bit cleaner. Extension, caption list view. And in here, we're going to write a function called func set data source, right? And it's going to be a function that doesn't return anything. And then we're going to write another one, func set snapshot, no, update snapshot with, and then this is going to take a argument. The parameter is going to be products. So it's going to be products. And then it's going to be type products, an array of type products. And this is also a non-returning function, right? So now we got the two backbone functions that we need. What we're going to do now is we're going to go back up to the top to our viewDid load. And in our viewDid load, we're going to add those functions to this. So set data source. And I'm going to do this the wrong way. I already know what I need to do, but I'm going to do it the wrong way just to show you guys something. Update snapshot with products. And we're going to pass in products. Okay. Now we still haven't done anything to the table view. This table view is still not going to have any data because we need to set the data source, right? So in here, we're going to grab the data source. We're going to say data source equals ns diffable actually I think it's UI table view diffable data source. Here's this one. And then we're going to find the one that takes the table view and has a cell provider, right? That's the easiest one to use. Yeah, because the other one is passing in the cell provider. We don't want to pass it in. I want it to be a closure. So we're going to grab this. And now in here, we're going to apply the table view, which is, what's the name of our table view? The name of our table view is caption list table. Caption list table. So we're going to throw the caption list table here. Caption list table. And then we're going to expand this closure. And then here we're going to call this product. And now you're going to see why I decided to change this to use the UI table view diffable data source instead of the values that we were using before. And in here we have to specify what the types are. So here it has to be sections and then products, or it's going to complain, right? Cannot assign value UI table view sections to type NS data source snapshot. Why is it giving me an error here? Cannot assign value of UI table view diffable data source. That's what it is. To NS. Oh, wait. This is not the right thing. This is not the right thing. This is supposed to be UI table view diffable data source. Like that. Sorry, I got those two things confused. One is the UI, the other one's the data source. So in here, this is what we're going to have to do this differently. Okay, so we got it. Table view, index path, and the product. And you're going to see in a second why I chose to switch this to the new library instead of using the old school method. I'll go over it step by step in a second. So let's create the snapshot really quick too. So this is the one that we had wrong a second ago. Let snapshot. I think this would be a variable, but we'll do it for now. Let snapshot equal NS diffable data source snapshot. This is the one that needs to have the that title. Constructor, sections, products, right? And now we have a snapshot. And then we're going to say snapshot dot append sections. And we're going to add the section. And the section is going to be main. If you're wondering where this section comes from, it's the enum that we made earlier with the list of sections. If you have a table view that has multiple different sections and categories, you can have different ones in here. Like you can have case main, case secondary, case family members, and so on, so on, so on. And you can add different sections. And then in your table view, the table view will have dividers with the different sections. But for now, we only need the one section. And this has to be a var because we're mutating the state of the snapshot. We're adding an item to it. So then here it's going to be snapshot dot append items. And here's where we add the items to the sections. So we're going to add the items. It's going to be products to main. And then down here, data source, apply snapshot. We're going to apply the snapshot we just created to the data source. So we're going to pass the snapshot variable in snapshot. And we want the animations to be true. So there, boom, true. Okay. So now we updated our snapshot. The snapshot is grabbing the new products when they're updated. And they're appending those products to the main category. And then it's sending that data to the data source so the data source can provide the values to the table. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hide this table view function, right? We no longer need this. So we no longer need this. And if you can see right here, we have the UI table view delegate and we have a UI table view data source. We no longer need to adhere to this protocol for the UI table view data source because we're not using the protocol anymore. We're using the new improved Apple library for sourcing data for our table views. So all we need is a delegate and the delegate methods. We can remove this data source method. So what I'm going to do to save time is I'm going to copy paste everything that's in here, right? Let's copy paste everything that's in here. Let's delete this function altogether. We no longer need it. And I'm going to paste it down here. But when I paste it down here, you're going to see there's going to be a simplification. And this is going to explain to you why I decided to go ahead and use the new library. So the first thing you'll see is we're getting an error saying that we're referencing products and that it's products is a property of the scope of the caption list view, which is outside of this closure. So we need to call safe, but we don't need this anymore. So we can delete it. We're deleting that. We're still generating a cell the same way, right? Table view, DQ reusable cell with identifier. We're still using the default cell. So the default cell identifier, we identified it up here as captions list table. And then the cell itself is going to be the default UI table view cell. We're not using a custom cell. So we have UI table view cell here that we registered. And we have the caption list view table view identifier that we registered when we created the table view. So we go back down here and we can keep this the same. We no longer need this current index path item. You're going to see why I wanted to use this new library, because this new library is so much simpler. It's so much simpler. So we can delete that. And now you'll see that before we had to go through the entire array of products that was outside of this function, and we needed to keep track of the index to get the values we needed. We had to do product, current index, title, products, current index, image. We no longer need to do that, because now with this new library, the product that we're on gets sent to us directly inside of this function. So we can delete all of this and we can just change this to product. Product. And we can change this to product. Product. We no longer need to keep track of the position in the table view. It's going to be automatically kept track of for us. So now we get the table view, we get the index path, and we get the product. We really don't need the index path for anything. So we can go ahead and mute that. I don't think we need the table view either. Oh yeah, we do. We use the table view here. DQ cell with identifier, yada, yada, for index path. Do we need this? So here we can do something clever. Actually, no, we can't. I was going to grab the data. We can't do that. Okay, so we do need this property. We use it here. And I was going to use the data source as its own register for the index path, but you can't do that because we're setting the data source. So there won't be a value when we do that. Okay, so we got everything done here. So now if we build the app, it should build. And I believe we should, well, actually, no, we're not going to see anything. Watch. We build the app. Hey, ¿qué pasó?
Hey, ya voy saliendo, loco.
Are you serious, dude?
Huh?
Are you serious?
Why?
¿Saliendo de dónde?
De la casa, loco, que I have breakfast. Hey, what's the code para entrar, loco?
The code is 205, but yo creo que no va a funcionar, loco.
Why?
Because it's been broken. Trátalo, 205.
How you know?
Mejor que just estacionan where you parked last time and just come from the front, logo.
Chill, bro. I want to do all that. Relax. Chill. Let me see if it works. 205.
Elfie, I had to hang up on you because it's gonna call my phone.
Okay.
I don't think it's gonna work.
Hang up. Yeah.
Okay, my brother's here, guys. I'm gonna have to go get him really quick. But what I was gonna say is that this is not going to build anything, right? It's still empty. The reason it's empty, and I was gonna explain this to you guys before, is because the way this is built, there's no data when this loads up. There's no data when this builds up. So what we need to do is we need to change this update snapshot with, grab this, and move it from here to here. So instead of having the caption list table dot reload data, we're going to set the data in here. And then this needs to have a self. And this in here needs to have self too. And I'll fix that in a second because this can be worked a different way, but let's build it. And now it should build. And now when it builds, you should have the data. And you see how it animated nice and smoothly. It didn't animate the way it animated before. So if you guys give me a second, I'm going to go open the gate for my brother, let him in. And when I come back, I will continue modifying this because there's still some more things that we need to change. So bear with me, guys. Job, I feel it's like luck. Baby's here. Hey, hi, baby. Okay, I'm back, guys. Okay, so
It smells hella musty in here.
Rob says, not gonna lie, I use this as a diversion for the market. Not really, but I know nothing on the subject, so taking it all in. Okay.
Hella musty in here.
Yeah, she's big now, mom.
She's a big girl.
No, she won't fall out.
I'm back.
Oh shit.
Hella musty in here.
Bro, I'm not. This is not a game stream, bro. This is a studying stream for smart, intelligent people. Oh, she won't fall out. Okay, so as you guys can see, everything is working now, right? Everything's working the same way. But when I added this new library, I noticed something. The first thing is, if you guys pay attention here, you'll see
Hella musty.
that we had when the user taps on the on a cell, when the user taps on the cell, it takes them to the next screen with the data from the screen.
That's SwiftUI?
But no, it's not, but it's like half and half. But what we were doing is we
Hella
had
musty.
the closure we were calling, and we were passing in the index row, right? We no longer need to do that. So now we can grab the product directly. We can say let product equal data source. And this is why I wanted to use the data source as well, because this simplifies the process here. Data source, what is it? Item identifier 4, right? And this is going to return the product, right? So item identifier 4, and we can pass in the index like that. And now this is going to be the product. So then now we can change the way this closure worked. We can go back to where we define the closure, and we can make the closure be product.
Hella musty in here.
An optional product, right? Products type. And then we can go in and we can change it here, because now we're going to get a warning saying that we're no longer conforming to the protocol. We can change it here as well. Products. And then where we are setting the definition of this, right?
Still shows an error.
No, it's because it'd be optional.
Hella
Where we
musty.
were setting the, and actually, should we make this let's not make that optional. We don't need to make it optional. It can be a standard. So now where we defined this function, right? If we go to the protocol and we say, let's go look at the callers, show callers, there's going to be no caller. Oh, well, there's going to be no callers because I changed the name already. So let's go to captionless view controller. And in the captionless view controller, we'll find that function. There'll be an error now, right?
Hella musty in here.
Can you shut the fuck up if you're going to be acting like an idiot, dude?
No.
I know, Mikey.
Because he's annoying, and I'm trying to be like, I'm trying to have a
you're hella
professional
musty and
stream.
you're trying to like.
Stop joking around. This is not the
musty,
joking
bro.
stream. This is the serious stream. So here, instead of us passing in the index now, where we were defining the function, now we have the product. So we can just change this to product. And then we don't need to do all this math anymore. Because before we were setting the product, we're looking at the captions list, we're accessing the list again. So we're accessing the list multiple times to get the product. We no longer need to do that because now we have the product directly. So we can just delete this line and we can make this product, right? And now when we build, everything should work the same way still.
It's cap.
Oh, yes, here. We have to change this here too. So here we're going to change it to product. And now when we build, it should work. Value of optional type product. Okay, so this is optional because the data source was optional, right? So I think, let's check the items. Does this return? Oh no, this always returns an optional. Okay, so let's just make this an if let. If let, so we can unwrap the optional, do that. And then we'll call this inside of that, like that. And then we can get rid of, actually we can keep this because I like having the statement be printed in here. But now when we build, Now when we build, it should show everything and it should pass it over. So first of all, you see how smooth the table view is when it loads. It loads in smooth, and when you click on it, now it's still passing in the proper data. So that was the first thing I wanted to fix with this, right? Was instead of using the old school table view, using the NS diffable data source with the UI table view data source, removing the data sources and using the new functions. Using the new functions that Apple provided us back in 2023. This is probably like 2023. Okay, so now when I was building this application, several times I mentioned to you guys that we were hard coding the view models and the views, which is something that I do not want to do. Right? Very unprofessional, hard coding these like this caption list view delegate, caption list view model. And then here on the view controller, we have the same thing. We have the rant view, hard coded. All of this was hard coded. So what we want to do now is we want to use dependency injection so that we can write the unit tests and be able to replace the classes with other classes so that it's no longer hard coded and there's no longer any hard ties or hard dependencies. In order to do that, we need to download Swift Inject. Now, there's multiple ways to do this. This morning, I went ahead and set this up so I could log into my GitHub and I can add packages from GitHub directly into the app using the Apple Swift Package Manager. Now, in the past, at the company that I worked at, we did not use the Apple Swift Package Manager. We used Cocoa Pods. And using Cocoa Pods is fine, but I'm trying to make a modern app, and eventually I will go back and make this whole app in SwiftUI as well, because I'm trying to make a modern app using the modern frameworks. And the modern framework now in the 2026 is using Apple Package Manager as much as possible. So we're going to go ahead and type in what we're looking for. The title of the library is Swin Inject. It's this one right here. Swin Inject is a lightweight dependency injection framework for Swift. Dependency injection, DI, is a software design pattern that implements inversion of control, IOC, for resolving dependencies. In this pattern, Swin Inject helps your app split into loosely coupled components, which can be developed, tested, and maintained more easily. Swin Inject, powered by Swift generic type system and first-class functions to define dependencies of your app simple and fluently. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add this package to our application like this. Boom, add package. And now the package is there in the application, right? We got it here. Swin Inject. The whole library is in here. So now what we're going to do, and admittedly, I don't remember how to start like at 12:31. I don't remember how I started the class that handles the dependency injection. I think we had a new class, so I'm just gonna create a new class. I'm gonna call it a helper class. Is that a good name? I don't know. To be honest, where I worked before, the dependency injection actually was part of the main class. So we're going to add it in here, actually. Let's just add a new file, empty new file, and we'll just call it dependencies. Like that. And then we're going to import Swin Inject like that. And then we're going to go to the Swin Inject library on GitHub so we can read how to actually use this properly, because I do not remember how to actually implement this the proper way from scratch. So let's go to their library, which I think, is there a way to go there directly? Maybe if I go in here, let's see if we can just go to it without having to look it up. Yeah, here it is. There. Okay. So this is their library, right? So let's go back to our app. Let's go back to the class I just made. And we're going to go ahead and see how they tell us to implement this, because I do not recall how to implement this from scratch. And for anybody who's a new developer, this is how you work without AI. If you want to actually learn how to do this from scratch, you go back to the libraries you're consuming and you read documentation. So Swin Inject is going to say the same thing I read earlier. Let's just find the examples. I don't really need to read all of this because I have used this in the past. I just need to find where they have like the explanation. Where they register the services. I don't want to use the storyboards, play around, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so just looking at this. Container. We need a container, so let's just make a class. Class. Dependencies. I don't think it needs to conform to any type of protocol or anything. And then we're gonna make a value here, var container. And then I'm assuming this is just equals container. Right? Like that. And then var shared, and then shared is going to save the oatmeal. Yeah. Okay, dude. Okay, make the initializer. You'll see I'm making this a singleton. Private init. Just do that. And then this is going to be equals dependencies like this. So now there's going to be one class called dependencies that handles all of the dependency injection that we need. So then container, let's go back to their documentation. Container register. So this is where they register all their dependencies. And inside of this initializer, I think I know what I needed to do here. So in here, what happened was they would have multiple, at least where I worked, we had multiple dependency classes, right? And then all of the dependency classes were in this initializer. And then we passed in the same original container, which should be private too. Private container. We passed the container into all of the other ones when we initialized them. Yeah, but we don't need to do that right now. So then we'll just, because this is not going to be that advanced. Func, register, dependency with, we'll just do it. I'll just do it similar to what we did at my job to make this cleaner. Container, and it's going to be a container type, right? And then we're going to do that. And then inside of the initializer, we're going to, I think we can just call this, right? Like that. And then this is going to be the container that we created earlier, like that. And I think that will work. And then in here, we're going to go ahead and start registering the different classes. So it's going to be container, register, this. And then we don't need that like that. We can just do this and we can do boop, va, in like that. And then we can just go through the list and we can just add the different things. So missing argument, yada, yada, yada. Yes, because this needs to have the type and it doesn't need to have, yeah, okay, that's fine. Okay, so let's just start with the first one. We'll go to the view controller. We'll start with the first one. It's going to be the caption list view. We'll grab it. We'll grab the protocol. We'll go back to the dependencies. We'll say boom dot self, and then we're going to register this class. Cannot convert value of the result type. Yes, because we haven't done anything yet. So then in here, we're gonna grab this and we're gonna just return this, right? You just need to throw it in there like that, I think. Initializer is not available due to missing import of UIKit. So we need to import UIKit. That, and now I think this should be fine. Okay. So then we did the first one. So now let's go back over here and we're going to delete this. And then we're going to go and add a property wrapper to this at inject. Oh, well, we got to import swin inject. And then let's add the inject here, which I think is lowercase. I think it should be that, but nothing happened. So something is wrong. So let's go back to the documentation and let's see how. Okay, I know why. Because that was something we did as well. That was something we made up as well. So in here, they're going to show the register and the register. And there's a, oh, those guys that I worked with were smart. Okay, so in here, this doesn't need to be this anymore. This is going to have to be, for now, equal to dependency injections, dependency shared. And then there's a resolver. So there needs to be a resolver function on this. I'll change it the way they did it at my job in a second. This can be private. And then this is going to be func resolve. You guys can turn on the TV, just don't turn it on loud. Resolve for, do this. I just gotta see if this works. Container, resolve, service type, and then it's gonna be the type. So we can just copy this actually. Type, service, type. And we can just do that. And then we'll just do this type. And then this returns something, right? Do not find service in the, okay, this just needs to be, how would I resolve this in a way that not find service in scope, generic, service. I'm assuming I'd have to do this service. That's a good question. I don't know how they were doing this. Like that. And then this return. Not doing it. You didn't have the password? That's an Android? Are you asking for the password? Yes or no?
Yes.
I don't even know if I even have it. It's house 955 square. $955 square.
Wait.
Let's write it down. Okay, so this, can we return service? And then, do I want this to be optional? Let's just do that. Service optional. Okay, so let's see if this actually works, because let's see. Let's go back to this and let's resolve for, and then here caption list view delegate. Can we do that? We got an error. Instance member shared cannot be yes, because this needs to be static. It has to be a class function. Static, and this needs to be static. Okay. And then in here, this should just be dependency. Damn, I don't want the container to be exposed. I don't want the container to be exposed. So can we do let here? I don't think so. Like that. That might work. And then this is going to be dependency injection. Shared. Like that. And then maybe this might work. And then we're going to create a property wrapper in a second so we don't need to do all this nonsense. Because at my job, that's what we did. We didn't have all the nonsense written out. So then over here, is this still having an error? Optionals. Force unwrap that for now. There's still an error. Expected member name for initializer call after type. Okay. Leave that alone. Okay, now let's build and see if it actually builds and works. Let's see. Let's see if I did this the right way. Okay. I think it worked. It worked. Okay. Okay. That worked. So now we got dependency injection, boys. Like the big dogs. So once we have dependency injection, what I'm going to do next is, damn, I don't know how these guys at my job did this, bro. These guys were fucking geniuses. Let's go ahead and change all of them to use the dependency injection, and then we'll figure out how to make it a property wrapper so that we don't need to write all this code. And we don't need to call that function anymore. So in here, we'll just start adding the containers, the different dependencies, right? And this should all like normally be separated. But for now, we're just going to do them all in one spot. Right? So let's just do this next one. This one was this. Dot self. No resolver. We don't need that. And then this is this. Right? You can get rid of that. Let's go back. And let's just change this so that it uses. Actually, let's just do it. We can type it out. It doesn't matter. Dependency injection. Resolved. And then we'll grab this. Boom. Dot self. Boom. Force unwrap it. And then let's go to the next item and let's do the same thing. We're just going to go through each one and just do it so that it's no longer hard coded. And eventually you guys will understand why we're doing this. So we're going to do the same thing here. Just copy paste it. Boom. Copy it. Go back to the dependency injection class. Paste it. Grab what we had before. Obviously, there's a faster way of doing this, but I'm just writing it out. This. That. That. Get rid of the extra constructor. Delete this. Okay. And then we can go back over here. And we can do the same thing. Import. Actually, do we need to import Swift? I don't think we need to import swine inject. Go back. We don't need this. The reason they were importing the swine inject earlier at my job is because they did a property wrapper and the property wrapper needed it, but we don't need it here. So then here, we're just going to do the same thing. Dependencies, shared, resolve for. Or maybe we can't. Oh, I remember what I was trying to do here. This, I don't want this to be static. That defeats the purpose. Do that. And then this can just be this. Like that. There. And then go back to the other two. This needs to be shared. Because I want it to be so that if you're using this as a consumer,
Hella musty.
you won't be able to.
Hey, what the hell?
You keep hitting this thing. So I want it so that when if you're consuming this library, you won't be able to modify anything in it. Okay. This dot self. Okay. Is that everything? Is that everything we had? The view model. Do the view models have dependencies as well? Oh, that did networking layer. Okay, so we have one more to do. This one. So we can just go ahead and do a shortcut right now and just write it out. Dependencies. Shared. Resolve for. Networking. Layer. Protocol. Itself. Okay. And then let's go to the dependency injections and let's add the new item. So it's going to be container register. And by the way, you don't need to make a class that does this. You could have just coded it sloppy, but I'm using best practices because this is how I learned how to do it. And I'm assuming that it's probably the best way to do it. That's why they had it set up this way at where I was at. And they didn't just have them loose, because you can have this loose. You can pretty much write this anywhere. It doesn't need to be in its own separate class. It's just having it in its own separate class makes it cleaner. So you have everything in one spot. Networking layer, not convert layer, closer type. Okay, so networking layer, I didn't even, yeah, it did. Network layer protocol. Go back. Oh, this is supposed to be self, not type. Okay. So now we should be able to build the app and everything should be working exactly the same as it was. Let's see. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So it built. Everything is the same. Everything is working fine. And now we have a dependency injection. Now, you might be wondering, why is it that you want to use dependency injection? The reason I want to use dependency injection for these views, I'm going to explain this to you right now, is because when you're trying to do unit tests, for example, the rant view, right? We're using rant view. If you go to the rant view class, you'll see that the rant view class has a UI view. It has a main image, a content stack, title label, It has a bunch of stuff on it, right? But let's say that you want to have multiple different rant views and you want to be able to swap them out on the fly without it being specifically hard coded. I can go ahead and subclass rant view now, right? I can say class Scott's rant view, and then I can make it a subclass of rant view, right? I can make it a subclass of rant view. And then I can go ahead and inside there, let's pretend like we want it to have a different color background, right? We can say, what can we do here? We can change the let's see. Add items to view controller, add text to label. So in this add text to label, we can override it. We can say add text to label, and we can say super add text to label, and then we can pass in the label we have, and we can pass in the text that we have. And color, you can see that color right now is nil, right? Well, we can change this and make the color be something different. So color, we can make the color be red. And we can also this is going to be sloppy, but we can do it anyway. We can get the view, and we can say view background color dot blue, just for an example. Equals blue, right? Okay. So now we have a whole nother class. It's a subclass of rant view, and we can change it on the fly just by going to the dependency injection, going to rant view, commenting this out, and saying, let's use Scott's rant view instead, right? And now when we build the app, instead of it having the original rant view, it's going to have the Scott's rant view. You see? So then all of that was done with changing just one line in the dependency injection. But the real thing that makes this powerful is when you're trying to write the unit tests. So when we're writing the unit tests, you can have a test module, and the test module can use, instead of it using this dependency injection class that you've created, you can have one where it's customized, and it can use rant view test, caption list view model test, caption list view test, networking layer test. And then you can run your test, and you'll have a set of real classes that you're using, and you can have a set of test classes that you're using, and you won't need to worry about them overlapping or messing each other up because you are not hard coding the class that's being used. You can replace the class with any class that conforms to rant view controller delegate. And that's the purpose of using dependency injection. Anyways, guys, I got an interview. I got to leave, but I hope you learned something. Rob, I hope you enjoyed the little session here. I hope you learned something at least. And hopefully people check these videos out and they start learning stuff from this channel. Anyways, I got to go, guys. Everybody stay safe. I'll catch y'all later. Peace. I'm out.